You want to say hi to the people? Come here. Say hi. Say hi. I got yelled at the last time I didn't showcase you. This is Valentine, everybody. Say hi to Val. Oh, she's purring. Yes, she is. Okay, you go hang out on my lap. So I thought I'd just make a quick video about this topic since it's going to be a staple of my comments for the next year or so as things sort themselves out. As you can tell, my left upper side of my lip and lower lip look a tad funky right now despite my attempts with makeup to minimize the shenanigans going on here, and that is because on New Year's Eve, 2021 to 2022, I was bit, mauled, attacked, I guess, whatever you want to call it, whatever word you want to use, by a dog. And that experience damn near tore half my lips off. So I was at a friend's house in our kitchen saying goodbye to friends to go off to another New Year's Eve party. And the dog had been pretty chill throughout the whole evening, hanging out with everybody and the other animals without any incident. And then we were getting ready to go to my boyfriend's parents' house half an hour before midnight when the dog comes up to me for what I was assuming were goodbye pets and the like. So I, dog lover that I am, I get down on my knees, so I'm basically eye level with the dog, and I'm giving her pets. And for what has to be a good solid minute, I'm giving her all the love. Then without warning, rhyme or reason, I get a nice sharp nip on my face, and a second later there's blood everywhere. So my boyfriend ushered me to the sink, gets me something to stop the bleeding, and all the while I'm like, hospital, in my great abundant coherence. Then a boyfriend bodies his way out of the house with me in tow and gets me in the truck. We are barreling down the main road in my hometown towards the nearest emergency room. Luckily, we beat the New Year's Eve rush. New Year's Eve is kind of famous for having incidences like, not exactly like mine, but similar in the fact that there are emergency situations. El Boyfriendo manages to get me to the first hospital in about 7 minutes, which is impressive considering it was supposed to be a 22-minute drive. He wasn't allowed inside due to COVID restrictions, which was a problem as talking was a struggle. So I'm alone in the hospital with massive blood loss because one of the arteries in my face had been nicked by the dog. Alone, near incapable of comprehensive speech, having to text out my responses to nurses who are asking me 12 million things simultaneously, holding gauze to my face. They're asking me about the dog's vaccination history, which I don't have, and all this other stuff. They're like, okay, lift the gauze. Let's take a look. Oh my God, that's really bad. Then to all of the other nurses right outside my door, they're like, yeah, it's a really bad dog bite over and over and over. And it's definitely getting to my head at this point. I'm not gonna lie, up until this point, I had been very, very concerned with the state of this face and whether or not things would be salvageable, if they would be able to reattach my lip in the first place, if I was going to be permanently disfigured in a much worse way than what you see before you today. But this definitely didn't help that experience. So I have all that information rolling around in my head for a bit before another nurse comes into the room and goes, honey, don't take a picture of your face, okay? Just promise me you won't. I wasn't going to, but now I'm on the brink of a panic attack because everything the emergency room nurses have said up until this point have all but confirmed to me that I, Weebo Jones, hi, hello, am going to be severely disfigured for life. Between the blood loss, the pain, the crippling mental anguish, it takes everything in me to do these fancy deep breathing exercises that they teach you to quell the rising freakout within me. Then another nurse comes in and is like, okay, now pictures. Let's see them pearly whites. So I remove the gauze from my face. She starts poking at my flappy lip skin, exposed muscle area, and whatever else it was. The nerve, like it's not a big deal. Mind you, it hurts like hell because I have yet to receive any sort of painkillers, thank you very much. So she's trying to separate the areas from other areas where they have not normally any connective tissue, but where a blood clot has essentially welded things to other stuff. All very anatomically correct. Yes, I'm aware. She gets her candids, skips off into the aether, leaving me to wallow in my own misery. Mama's gotta pee, so she dings the nurse on the fancy remote thing, and they wheel me off to the bathroom, where it's requested that I pee in a cup to see if I'm pregnant. So imagine, if you will, holding gauze to your face, hoping that your lip skin doesn't just fall off your face, and you're like trying to maneuver a cup into your crotchal region to get a sample of urine, and all while trying to keep it separated from each other. So I'm trying not to touch anything down here with this hand. And I'm trying not to touch anything up here with this hand. So it's all very complicated, this whole process. They really wanted to know if I was pregnant or not. Side note, I was not pregnant. I am not pregnant. That would have just been the cherry on top of my night had I been. But then we go back to the room. And that's when they're like, oh yeah, we need to shove these Q-tips into your brain through your nostril to test for COVID. Yay. And then the nurse, I kid you not, she finishes violating my nostril holes and promptly drops the Q-tip on the floor. So she has to do the thing again, and I'm really living my best life at this point. You can tell, truly, I was exactly where I wanted to be at that moment. In the hospital, unable to talk, lips bleeding all over the place, being poked and prodded in various different places by various different strangers, progressively sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into medical debt with every single passing minute. So after this is basically a waiting game, another nurse comes in to tell me that they were calling around to surrounding hospitals trying to get a hold of a specialist to sew my face back together, which you want, especially when it concerns your face and significant trauma. You want a specialist there. I didn't hear this until after, but apparently they'd been talking to El Boyfriendo initially, and they'd said, we could sew her back together in the ER ourselves. It just would not be done by a specialist. And my boyfriend, bless his soul, was like, absolutely not. Get the specialist. Which, in this case, is a plastic surgeon. Thank you for that, my love. Boy knows what I want. I am entirely too vain to walk around looking like the Bride of Frankenstein's monster for the rest of my life. No, thank you. I did not sign up to be a jigsaw exhibition. So they call my boyfriend back, and they tell him, we called a few places, and we can't find a plastic surgeon at the nearest surrounding hospitals, so, what now? And he embraces his inner Karen and goes, try harder. And I so love that he was able to do that for me, be my advocate in the way that I would normally be in a circumstance where I couldn't be. But also, the fact that this man sat in not one, but two hospital parking lots for the better part of 18 hours with my brother for company and barely slept just to make sure that I was taken care of. Like, it sucks and all that my face was mauled, but it's good to have that reassurance that that is the person with whom I'm committed to spending the rest of my life with. So they keep calling around looking for a plastic surgeon. And finally, they manage. And I'm not gonna lie, the hospital that they got could not have been better for the circumstances that I was in. We got me a plastic surgeon at a level 1 trauma center with a whole plastic surgery reconstructive department, and they are much closer to my house than like the initial hospital that we were at. Not to mention, it's a really good plastic surgery department. So yay. I mean, it's a bit more pricey, and they definitely said something about that to El Boyfriendo in the moment. But, I mean, have you seen this face? Anyway, at this point, when they find the hospital, it's about 3:30 a.m., I think. I'm trying to get some sleep, but in my hazy, painful stupor, I catch the conversation between the nurse and my boyfriend. All that's left is transport, and unfortunately, they can't get me a ride to the new hospital until about 9 a.m. My boyfriend asks the nurse probably something like, why couldn't I just drive her there right now? And they're like, by the time you get there and checked in and back to the point where she's at now in the intake process, it'll be about 9 o'clock too. Which is time not of the essence in the case of a person with half-severed lips? Time is fucking ticking. My nerves are out there flapping in the wind for all to see, with my lip skin, and each passing moment, isn't that skin and all of that cellular activity just dying? Why are we not going with concern over the death of my cells? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I just know that if you traumatically amputate your finger, it's a big deal that it gets reattached within a timely manner, or else you lose it, right? Keep in mind, things have not been iced at all this entire time. I've just been holding it there against my face until this point. In the moment, nobody argues with a nurse because we're all tired, traumatized, freaking out, or high as a kite in my case. Because they did eventually give me the good shit. Morphine. I'm just in and fucking out the whole time, and partially because I'm in pain, but also partially because the nurses have left my door wide open this whole time to conveniently use my room as the glove sanitation way station area. I think I got a visit from every single medical professional in the ER during this time coming into my room for a pair of gloves or to re-up on their hand sanitizer, despite the fact that it was clearly posted that they were supposed to keep the doors to each of the ER rooms shut. Thanks. Worst sleep of my entire existence. I had more privacy in the ER in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Indiana, as I waited upon my appendectomy in 2019. That time, ironically enough, though, was the more life-threatening of my 2 ER experiences, but infinitely more funny and, to be honest, enjoyable experience than this one was. So anyway, after I've killed 6 hours resting like a starfish in what would only be comparable to one of those CIA sleep deprivation torture exercises, the ambulance arrives and they hurry up to wait by my door for the arrival of my doctor person to just discharge me. And then the ambulance asks to see my dog bite. And I'm like, no, I am not dislodging this blood clot to have yet another person react to my really bad dog bite to the face. Take me to my plastic surgeon, you glorified taxi service. I mean, no disrespect to emergency responders, my dad was one, but let's be frank, this was a transport operation where they were taking me from point A to point B, from one hospital to another, not an instance where they were responding to a scene with me bleeding out and nearing death's door. Completely different. Essentially, it was the most expensive Uber ride I have ever and will ever take in my life, clocking in at around $467.95 after insurance. It was out of network. So the actual cost of this 45-minute straight shot down the highway looks a lot closer to about $3,000. That's one hell of a markup either way, my dudes. So we get to the second hospital and everything is much quicker paced here. They get me into my room, get me the drugs, take my vitals, and like 3 separate plastic surgeons come into my room to see what's up. And I guess reassure me that all will be well. Thank you. One of which, I remember this not super vividly, but I remember it because it was so unorthodox. But I remember him touching my leg, like kind of far up on my thigh. And now that I'm reliving the experience, I remember feeling uncomfortable with that. Or I remember it because I was uncomfortable with it, because no one else had been touching me in any way, shape, or form that wasn't related to this whole shenanigans. But this guy was just super comfy with, "Hi, you're gonna be good." I remember him coming in again after I was sewn up to check on me again, during which time he again touched my leg. And it was super, super odd. And the good doctor, the one who sewed me up, comes in to tell me that the senior surgeon overseeing him agrees with his plan to sew me up. He's cleared to proceed, and so that's what he does. He administers the lidocaine to my lips and my gum area. And by the way, getting jabbed in the gums with a needle hurts like a bitch. And it's residual, because I felt it even after the lidocaine had worn off. Oh, and boy, did I feel it. They had to give me morphine for just that experience. Not just the dog bite, but the actual aftermath of getting it sewn up. The lidocaine. Oh, God. Worst pain ever. But yeah, the doc does the whole blanket thing and begins suturing, and he was such a delight to talk to. We were talking while he was sewing up my face, actually. So half of my face was numb, the other half could respond and whatnot. It wasn't a super big deal. Kind of like in that way that you do at the dentist, except I could respond a little bit better and more coherently because his hands were not halfway down my throat scraping my molars. They were outside my mouth, sewing it back together. We had a whole conversation. It was great. 10 out of 10, I guess, would recommend. And then he was done. And that was it. So in the aftermath, my boyfriend and my brother got me home and into my pajamas and onto the couch. And then boyfriend went back out for medical supplies that we didn't already have. So like ice packs, Advil PM, prescriptions. The doctor had prescribed me. He also went out to get foods that I would be able to eat. So things like soups, applesauces, beans, pudding, stuff like that. He also got me things to eat these things with because I couldn't open my mouth super widely. I was mouth crippled. So I needed smaller apparatuses with which to eat. So he got me some baby spoons and some straws. And then cue the next 72 hours of my life being treated like I was a toddler again. He followed me everywhere I went to make sure that I didn't need his help. If I was getting dressed, he'd be right there to remind me to take my shirt off with less aggression and force than I normally would, so as to prevent me from ripping my stitches. Now, I did manage to wake up earlier than him the next morning, the morning after I had, come home, and make an entire batch of banana pancakes and bacon for the boys as a sort of thank you for being there for me for the 18 hours that they were in the parking lot, which wasn't the best idea. Wasn't the smartest thing I could have done, because as I was pouring the last batch of the batter, I started to feel like absolute shit. Like I needed to sit down and do nothing. Keep in mind that I had been neck deep in remodeling my kitchen at this point, so everything was a hot mess. Everything was out of the cabinets. Everything was half stained and removed. We had no cabinet doors installed. It was the most inconvenient time for me to be out of commission for so long. There's how the online community acted. So I was keeping people up to date as this was happening. The first person that I did tell about my predicament was Polydub, my co-host for Cocktail Hour on Sunday nights, sometime after midnight. And it was mainly just to let him know that I needed to cancel our weekly cocktail hour due to my predicament. I wouldn't have been able to talk. It was a nice distraction from all that I experienced in the hospital. Similar with the live tweeting and the updating of the people about the process, I would insert small gallows humor anecdotes about what was going on to keep me sane, but it also let you guys know that this was going on in my life, and I did not expect, I absolutely 100% did not expect the community to mobilize like it did. So Rhino, R-Y-N-O, on Twitter made a GoFundMe for my medical expenses on the 2nd of January. Magog of Morscar, who I do side quest with, made a video about the situation and also directed people to the GoFundMe, letting know what was going on, kind of updating the people about what had happened. And then my oldest friend on the internet and ex-co-host, The Next 6 Minutes, got together with AP, formerly The Frog, currently Adonis Paul, and they did their own fundraising stream shilling the GoFundMe. Then Polydub and the boys from the AAA also got together to do a live stream over on Sinatra's channel to raise money for medical expenses. And I laughed, but I also cried a lot. Two of the things that I was not supposed to be doing, because let me tell you, I had stitches all the way down here and up inside of my lip and all the way up here and inside my lip. Smiling hurt. Any sort of expression hurt. And I am a very expressive person. So everything hurt. And they made me laugh. I mean, I think Sinatra's stream started off with a whole ass dog bite PSA for kids. That was textbook everything that I wasn't supposed to do that I ended up doing in that situation. And that made me die laughing, I swear. It was hilarious. And those are just the streams that I knew about happening. Overall, the turnout for me in my hours of need was overwhelming. Sinatra, Drunkle, Polly, Six, AP, Falstaff, Rhino, Magog of Morscar, the Ranting Monkey, the people over the Minions of the Zoo, Scribe, just everyone. from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It was really heartwarming to find out that there were that many people that cared about me, that I had that many friends, family, fans, complete strangers even, that cared and were cared enough to mobilize on my behalf. God damn it, I'm fucking gonna cry. Okay. I'm sorry, just thinking about it is still overwhelming. I didn't think that this was gonna be still so emotional for me, but it is. Okay, anyway. It was quite the white pill, if I'm gonna be honest. I didn't expect that. I mean, I knew to some degree that people would be compassionate to my situation, especially my friends, but holy fucking shit. I cried, I laughed. I'm still struggling to find the words to express how grateful I am that I cultivated a community around me that is as kind and as thoughtful and as supportive as they are. And I'm gonna spend the rest of my life living up to that, I guess. Living up to I'm gonna spend the rest of my life making sure that I deserve that. If that makes sense. So we move on to the FAQ portion of this video, because I know people are going to have questions about things and such related to this nonsense, and a few of the more frequently ones I will address here in this video. The ones that I don't address, you can always look in the comment section and ask them yourselves. I will do my best to answer everything that I can. Are you okay now? I'm fine, save for the accumulation of scar tissue in that area. Swelling is mostly gone down, but not completely. You can kind of see there's still some unevenness here. And I still can't feel this part of my lip. The swelling is probably from undissolved suture material in the areas of concern, plus probably some coagulated blood-ish things. And of course the scar tissue. I've been told to massage those areas by the doc, which is not a fun experience, I'll have you know. I'm supposed to apply this silicone scar cream as well to work on that. I ordered a few products. They should be here in the mail sometime next week. Stuff with vitamin E, so bio oil. And then this dermatology recommended silicone scar gel that is supposed to reduce the scarring. And I think one of those two things is also SPF rated, so that was another thing that I was supposed to prevent is sun from touching the scar, because I guess it darkens scars or whatever. I mean, if you thought I was glowing before, oh boy, have you not seen nothing yet. My complexion is going to be dazzling for the rest of my life, it seems. I'm gonna be a pasty white bitch forever. And because it's winter and super cold out, I will not be able to leave the house without some sort of warm, sheltered face protection shield, because the cold, oh boy, does it hurt. Something awful. Was it a pit bull? It was. I'd rather not broach the topic of the great pit bull debate. Thank you very much. All I will say about the matter is that it was just an instantaneous nip. No holding or shaking of any sort. Otherwise, it would have been much worse, obviously. And if I were being honest, the situation, it read more like a warning to back off than a formal dog attack. I don't know, like, go away. Begone thought. But because of the biting force of this particular dog breed, well, we got what we got. What happened to the dog? Dog is getting training weekly with a special aggressive dog trainer. Along with that, the dog has been isolated in a separate part of the house, away from other people and other animals. Additionally, anytime the dog goes out, she will be on a muzzle so as to avoid this kind of thing from happening. And for special occasions, like New Year's Eve kind of occasions, the vet has prescribed sedatives to minimize any antagonism. So we're hoping, praying, and by we I mean the owner, is doing everything short of euthanizing the dog to make sure that this never happens again. I don't want to see the dog put down. If we can avoid that at all costs, I'd be very happy to. But of course, I have ensured, for my own peace of mind, that the owner has taken the proper precautions to prevent this from happening ever again. The other question that I get asked a lot is, what about the owner? So the owner and I have worked out a deal where I pay for the medical bills out of pocket when they come to me, which is where the GoFundMe was super useful, is that I had that spare cash on hand to pay out of pocket for those expenditures that I was definitely not expecting to have to chill out for. And then the owner will repay me later. So she will sell me the cash, essentially, straight up. At this point, I've already paid for one of the bills, which was, I think, one of the biggest ones that came through so far. And I was able to do that through the help of this wonderful community, like I said. Thank you guys so much. Just straight up out of pocket. The owner has paid me back that amount, so we're square so far. But obviously, the bills will probably be incoming for the rest of the year. I'm so excited about that, especially since the initial hospital everything is not the end of what's going to happen. I will get to that later. So how am I with dogs now? Before the incident, I was very well accustomed to dogs. I come from a big dog family of varying breeds, usually pretty big size. So I wasn't shy before with dogs. Obviously, I got down on my knees in the face of a pit bull, thinking it would be okay. I regret that now. After the fact, I've only ever had interactions with tinier variety of dogs, and Daphne, who is a golden retriever with the disposition of a puppy and the snuggles of a kitty. So I'll know better probably during the next family reunion how I am with other dogs, but I don't anticipate having any issues with dogs going forward. At least I hope not, because that would make family reunions very difficult for me. I will not be putting my face near their faces anymore unless they are a tiny puppy or a dog that I myself have raised from puppyhood. So Daphne, essentially, is like the only exception that I have in this case. I don't anticipate having issues with dogs going further. At least I hope not. Fingers crossed. We'll find out when we get there. Are there pictures? So for those morbidly curious about exactly the extent of the damage, I will link the Google album in the description if you want to look at the worst of the damage and the progressive healing that I have been going through since then. But I will not be showing it in this video. One, because I don't want to traumatize anybody, but two, I think I would get kicked off YouTube if I showcased it, because it's gnarly. I'm so glad that I did not look at it in the hospital whatsoever. That would have just sent me spiraling. And I guess finally we can talk about what's next. So I have a follow-up in late February to review my healing process. It's the second follow-up that wasn't me getting my stitches removed. And at that follow-up, we're going to decide if I feel like I need more work done to this area, which I think I already do. I mean, it's not February yet even, but I think I'm going to need a little bit of correctiveness in this area because I'm not super satisfied with exactly where everything healed up and lined up. I mean, for instance, down here you can kind of see it, but it looks like I'm sporting a nice big fat cold sore, and I don't want that experience. I'd rather have it like shaved down so that it's even with the rest of my skin, or cut open and groove back into what it's supposed to be. So that's going to be a fun time. That'll take another plastic surgery session where they go in and they correct the issue. Probably I'll be awake for the whole thing, which is yay me. That procedure probably won't be nearly as expensive as the initial one. At least one more surgery. After that, I'm not 100% sure. I might spring for some sort of laser reduction in the scar to make it look less angry and red. But I don't know, I go through days where I kind of like the look a little bit. It's definitely growing on me, and I don't know if that's just because, well, this is what I look like for the time being, or if I actually like it. It's gonna be one of those things that I have to work out in my head. I know there are a few people out there that kind of do like the look, think it's sexy. El Boyfriendo is one of them, which I definitely appreciate, but I don't know. It's all gonna come down to what I can live with, and right now, I think the biggest issue that I have is with the numbness, which there's not a whole lot that I can do about it. It's gonna come back at its own time, or it's not. The other thing that I take umbrage with is the way that it's fucked with my smile. It doesn't look normal anymore. It doesn't look even, and it feels kind of stuck. I think part of that's because of the numbness, but also part of that is probably because of the swollenness and the fact that I have scar tissue there now, blocking my ability to properly smile. So that's really what it's going to come down to is, am I going to go back to being able to smile the way that I want to or not? Because I really like my smile. I'm very fond of it. It'd be a shame if I couldn't smile the way that I used to. So those were all of the questions that I could come up with that I thought people might ask me. If there are any outstanding questions, feel so to do so in the chat down below. The GoFundMe is also linked in the description if you feel so inclined to contribute to that. There's no obligation for anyone at this point. Like I said, me and the owner have worked out a deal where I get repaid, and then at this point, because of that deal, I should hopefully, I think, be able to... Actually, you know what? I don't want to speak too soon. I don't know for a fact how much it's going to cost to do the next surgery. I'm speculating that it won't be as much. I come to find that I know nothing about the United States medical care system, even less than I did before I had my own personal insurance through my company. So that's fun. How is this going to affect content going forward? I still plan to make side quests on Friday nights and to be there for cocktail hour on Sunday nights, and I still plan to make the video schedule that I did that I posted on the Patreon and on the community support section for all of the members. I still plan to adhere to that, mostly. The only exception is obviously I didn't post the January video. That will be posted at the end of February, and there will be the February video will be out on Valentine's Day. I promise you that. It's going to be a fun time. Outside of that, my 6-year YouTube anniversary is coming up on the 2nd of February. So we're going to be celebrating that on my channel through a live stream where we review some pivotal Weebo content over the years. Some cringes, some laughs, some heartaches, all that jazz. We will be having a nostalgia anniversary stream on the 2nd of February in honor of my 6th year on this platform. Lots of fun things coming up the next month. I definitely look forward to doing all of them and to sharing all of them with you, my community, who still can't get over it. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, lizard people of all ages, I've been Weebo Jones, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.